It's great to be here today. And really, from the very start of the United Nations, women have actually shaped the DNA of the UN. In 1945, there were only 4 women amongst the signatories of the Charter. One of them was named Bertha Lutz and Minerva Bernardino. They fought to ensure that the word women actually appeared in the founding text and secured equality at the heart of the UN's mandate. 80 years on, today, only 29 countries are led by women, and just 1 in 5 is actually a permanent representative here in New York. Despite these enduring imbalances of power, women have actually driven every frontier of peace and rights, whether that's drafting the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, to mobilizing towards the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, to actually securing more durable peace agreements. I think it shows us a really simple truth, and that is when women lead, peace follows. When women lead, rights are protected and economies thrive.
You mentioned the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action. It's marking its 30th anniversary this year. It's a global agenda for gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls. What made this resolution such a game changer in the advancement of women's rights?
You know, the Beijing Platform for Action was absolutely game-changing because it asserted a simple but critical truth, that women's rights are human rights. And 189 governments around the world committed to a comprehensive and transformative blueprint for gender equality. It was also historic in scope and in spirit. It named 12 critical areas, from education and health to violence to power and peace, all of these remaining urgent today. It also actually had remarkable foresight. It named technology and environment as new frontiers where the agenda for women's rights would be most needed. And now, 30 years on, the Beijing Platform for Action really continues to mobilize governments, the UN and women's movements. Over 150 countries around the world just this year have reported on their actions taken, a really clear testament to the continued relevance and the continued power of the Beijing Platform for Action. And its power lies not only in words, but also in the consensus it forged. It's a living promise, if you will, that progress for women and girls is really the measure of progress for humanity itself.
And when it comes to gender equality, what kind of progress has China made in education and bringing more women into the workforce?
China has made such strong and impressive strides in expanding education as well as access in the labor market for women. Women now make up more than half of the university and graduate students across China, excelling actually across all disciplines. Women across China also participate in the workforce at one of the highest rates globally, with growing visibility in entrepreneurship as well as small business ownership. Our latest report by UN Women and UN DESA, called the SDG Gender Snapshot, it reminds us, however, that right across the world, when we pull out, progress in education isn't necessarily always translating into equality in the workplace or in leadership. Globally, women are still pushed out of the labor force because of things like unpaid care work, or being paid less for their work, or gender parity in management, which actually still globally remains nearly a century away. So here, our collective work really in China and across the world is to turn these educational gains into equal opportunity at work, equal power in leadership, so that the promises of gender equality really deliver for women, deliver for economies, and deliver for societies everywhere.
Now, UN Women, as well as the UN Department of Economic and Social Affairs, have collaborated on an extensive report, a snapshot, if you like, on the progress of the Sustainable Development Goals for 2030. What are some of the key takeaways in that report when it comes to alleviating extreme poverty?
This year's SDG Snapshot report on gender shows the very concerning picture that Female extreme poverty has been stuck. It is stagnated at about 10% since 2020. But what's more concerning is that if these trends continue, there will be 351 million women and girls across the world that will still live in extreme poverty in the year 2030. The report also tells us that poverty is not inevitable. It reflects choices that undervalue women's work, that push 708 million women out of the labor force due to the burden of unpaid care, and that deny a staggering 2 billion women any social protection. And these are data points that are global from around the world. The most important thing is that it tells us that we actually can make a different choice. We have looked with data and have found that accelerating action in a package of interventions focused on the care economy, on education, on the green economy, on labor markets, and on social protection could reduce the number of women and girls in extreme poverty by 110 million by the year 2050. And this would actually unlock cumulative economic returns of $342 trillion. Quite simply, I think my point is really that the future is not fixed. We can choose a world where millions more women remain trapped in poverty, or we can choose differently. We can choose a world where women's rights are delivered at scale and the returns are actually shared by all.